Perfect.
Doesn't it feel like some of these video game adaptations have been going unnecessarily hard lately? I mean, they used to flop every time without fail, but nowadays, probably because there's a big focus on animation than trying to make everything live action, there's been so much success. Tekken Bloodlines was dope, Nier Automata was great, and Cyberpunk was so good that you know what, I almost played the game. And that's not even mentioning stuff like Castlevania, Cuphead, Arcane. Oh, man, Arcane was so good! And yeah, they might not all be bangers, but when you get people who truly care about their craft of what to make and how to make it, something truly magnificent can come from it. And this got me thinking, what other games out there deserve the adaptation treatment? Specifically, what gaming narrative could work as an animated show or even a straight-up anime? This, of course, would DQ any live-action options, but that's another list for another day. Today, we're talking strictly animation, as the more and more I watch, the more and more I fall in love with it. So, let's go.
10.
If there's one thing I'm an absolute sucker for, it's skyships. I know that's probably a very niche and shocking thing, so I'll give you a second to process that. Okay, second's over, it's time to talk obscure PS2 JRPGs, and I discovered Rogue Galaxy completely by accident. I was just scrolling through the PS Store when I happened across it and saw that it was free, and I don't know why, but it just called out to me. Maybe because I was in a certain mood to play a very similar game that you may or may not see later on this list, but I decided to give it a shot, and boy was I not disappointed. The gameplay is engaging, characters feel so alive, and the world building, or should I say, galaxy building, is incredible. Mix that in with an amazing orchestral soundtrack and great voice acting, and you have an amazing game. Bonus points for Steve Blum. All things are better if Steve Blum's there. A brief summary is your main character Jaster, a boy from a desert planet who just wants to explore the stars, is suddenly mistaken for a legendary bounty hunter and asked to take on a mission far from home. Not missing his opportunity to see his dream come to life, he adopts this desert claw persona to see what life's like across the galaxy. But has he gotten himself too deep into the unknown? The story itself is extremely layered. Every character, big and small, feels so real and significant. Even the small side stories that don't take up much of the main campaign can be extremely touching. It was just so refreshing to see that the game has well done storytelling and character work. Every time I get to a cutscene, I'm reminded that this kind of story would work so well for an anime. There's 13 chapters and they each cover a certain arc, and some could be condensed for pacing's sake. There's just a narrative difference with games and shows, but this could work wonders. It wouldn't be the next JJK or anything, but an intergalactic skyship pirate anime hasn't really been done yet, so there's a ton of potential for this type of story working. The character designs for your party members is wonderful as well. Shout out to whoever designed Lilica. I see you, and I appreciate you. But the reason this is so high on the list is, well, I'm not done with it yet. It's a pretty long game, and every time you die it boots you all the way back to the menu screen, which I'm being told is normal as far as JRPGs go, but boy, I was not prepared for that kind of struggle. But, you know, get good, I guess. But until I know that 100% of the story is banging, and if the last half is anything like the first, then I'm sure I won't be disappointed. Number 10, you will remain. Stay cool, Rogue Galaxy. Stay cool.
Nine.
I truly think people don't give Oddworld its proper credit for how revolutionary it was for its time. I mean, at the time of the PS1, when Abe's Oddysee first released, Abe became a mascot joining Spyro, Crash, Blasto, but nowadays he's not really discussed on the same level apart from his specific fanbase. But while other companies were making games, Oddworld inhabitants were making, well, Odysseys. Coming from the mind of the extremely talented Lorne Lanning, he and his team really wanted to make a reflection of the destruction that fast-growing capitalism and globalization can have on the lower class. They created a gritty and horrific fantasy world to showcase how much slave labor people are willing to do to please the corporate bigwigs on top, and how little they get in return. This type of storytelling was nearly unheard of by this era in gaming. Very few people were willing to take such a risk on a project at the time, but it paid off immensely. Mix in some dark humor and some creative charismatic aliens, I think an animated miniseries could work great. I think with a solid approach with its story and art, a 6-episode series just going through the first game, or even a brand new plot made purely for the show, could be spectacular and honestly beautiful. From the script perspective, but also the cutscenes, as a lot of the levels in these games can have so much atmosphere. And if I can use a quote from the man himself, great art reflects back on us not necessarily what we want to see, but need to face. And the fact that the game was released in 1997, and the corporate world has only grown and corruption has even found its way now buried deep into the video game industry, I just think it's fascinating how the message of the game is still just as relevant now, more than ever. Here's a fun fact. I've only played the first Kid Icarus and it was only for about 30 minutes. Talk about a franchise carried by good character design. Imagine a world where Sakurai didn't add Pit to Smash Bros. We'd be a darker world purely by having one less great 3DS game. At least from what I've been told. I've never played Uprising, but I've heard nothing but praise for it, and to build hype, Nintendo actually got animation studios to make 3 anime shorts prior to the game's release. And check any comment section from these re-uploads. People are begging for an anime series with a similar design and casting. The world of Kid Icarus is pretty foreign to me, but I got a brief lore explanation thanks to Chase Kip's old video, and an anime focusing on Pit's journey against these ancient gods in these fantastical worlds would be an absolute treat to see. And honestly, why not? It wouldn't be too much trouble to license your product out to see how well it does and use that hype and popularity to justify a new game. I mean, more than anything, the fans of this franchise desperately want something. Anything. A remake, sequel, even a show. The fanbase isn't as niche as Nintendo wants you to believe they are. Honestly, leave it to Sakurai to create a whole studio with the sole purpose of making Kid Icarus Uprising and then immediately dissolving it once they were done. That is some true G shit. He said, you want a game? Fine, but everybody gets one. This one's a brief entry, not only because I'm a little more unfamiliar with it, but just because it's so simple. It's almost been done before. I see only success here, just don't do whatever this is, please and thank you.
7.
So, I'll come completely clean. Metroid originally made the list purely because I wanted to see a space waifu kicking alien ass left and right. Think Black Lagoon meets Cowboy Bebop. I would have been satisfied with just that, but I thought I should do a little bit of research before dedicating the number 7 spot on my holy schmoly list, as I've only really played the original and Super Metroid, neither one of them to completion, mind you. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know Samus was a girl until the Zero Suit reveal in the Brawl trailers. Regardless, I looked up the timeline lore of Metroid and oh my goodness does this thing run deep. It was way more fascinating than I ever thought it would be, and the fact that the chronological order is scattered all over the release order is genuinely mind-boggling. How on earth do you Metroid fans do it? But with a lore this deep, I would love to see a multi-season animated show covering Samus' background to her fights with Ridley and Kraid. You could also bypass the video gamey explanation of Samus losing her power-ups and having to find them everywhere. Although imagine if that happened at the start of every season, oh my god, the weebs would lose it. Really hoping that that new Tomb Raider show finds success as well. I just really want to see Samus join Lara Croft on the possibly Netflix-owned small screen. But more than likely Peacock, because they got Illumination and Mario and you know what, whatever. Klonoa, I freaking love Klonoa. One of my all-time favorite platformers. This game is so cute, easy to pick up and play, and a wonderful, extremely unpainful, and totally not soul-crushing experience. I promise. Who couldn't immediately get behind Klonoa as a protagonist? If that's you, let me know who and where you are so I can flay you. Klonoa and his little buddy Hugh Pal must save Phantomile from the evil Gadius, and yeah, that's pretty much it. There's a lot of interesting characters you meet along the way, but none overstay their welcome too long, and honestly, that's why I think Klonoa would work best as an animated movie. And Klonoa fans out there, imagine if Ghibli got their hands on this project. The visuals, the sound, the design, the emotional moments, the aesthetics! Oh my god, the aesthetics! Just thinking about it gets my head spinning in awe. And for anyone who's never played it, I won't spoil any big moments here because the game did get a re-release and you should absolutely play it if you haven't. You can finish it in just a few hours with how easy and short it is, but good lord, that ending, good lord. Sometimes just getting through a story that's filled with wonder and soul is just what you need, and Klonoa would fit perfectly. And I know that the title is animated shows and I want a Klonoa movie, but hey, if that's truly upsetting to you, I'd encourage you to do this. Touch grass, baby girl. Oh, and you can do the sequel if you want.
5.
Now I really enjoy throwing in oddball picks here and there to keep ya on your toes. After all, never let your ops know your next move. You might see Mario on screen and wonder, wait, there was already a Mario movie and older Mario shows. Why do you want another? Well, you didn't let me finish, stupid! And that's why I don't want any ordinary Super Mario show. No. I think it would be really neat to have a one-season Paper Mario show. Now this one could be extremely complicated. After all, there's not really any voice acting in any of these games, and there's a huge section of people out there whose biggest rival is the entity known as subtitles? But hear me out. Has there been any Mario story better than the ones created for the Paper Mario series? The dialogue in these games is beyond charming. The worlds and enemies can often be extremely creative given you gotta design everything after paper. And as far as I know, there isn't a whole lot of shows that would look like this. You have a serious untapped well full of potential right here that very few people have touched on, so why not? Take the risk. If people saw this announced, you would have countless tuning in to see the creativity that can be pulled off here. An original story with new side characters as party members, wonderful worlds to explore, witty dialogue to enjoy, heavy moments to learn from, and a whole new line of Funko Pops to ignore? Well, I think it's a good idea.
4.
I did promise I'd come back to this, didn't I? But a bit of background first. As a wee lad, I didn't play much JRPGs. It wasn't for any particular reason, you just play the games your parents get for you, so I never got into that craze. A fact I do regret to this day, as there's so many out there to play and get into this late in the game. Skies of Arcadia is on that list. Earlier this year, while I was scrolling on YouTube, I got recommended a 3.5 hour long retrospective of the game. And I don't know why or what compelled me to watch it, but I was interested. And shout out to Jordan as he covered essentially every aspect about the game, the lore, the mechanics, the development. There seriously wasn't a single thing he missed, and watching him explain the story with the cutscenes honestly made me feel like I was watching a movie. And I do recommend you go watch his video if you haven't. The man's got a deep love for the game and its characters and can articulate it much better than I ever could, but if you'll indulge me. The story follows two sky pirates, Vice and Ica, who run into Fina, a woman being hunted by the Empire. She eventually reveals her mission is to travel to Arcadia to retrieve 6 moon crystals before the enemy Valula does, as whoever controls them can summon the living weapons called the Gigas, not that guy. With the power of all 6, you can potentially control the world. That's a very brief summary that doesn't even take into account the countless amazing characters and events that drive each one of them. Now, does that not sound like a great anime idea? I mean, maybe it's just me, but I love the lore of this game. Great characters, laughable dialogue, heated battles, wonderful villains, and incredibly intense moments that teach self-discovery, sacrifice, friendship. There's so much to unpack here, and it baffles me that the game never got a re-release. Original copies can also be stupidly expensive nowadays, which is super unfortunate, but if we might never see the game on newer consoles properly, I would love to see the story retold in an anime. The more anime I watch and the more story-driven Japanese games I play, the more similarities I see in them. Do I just want a re-release? Yes, I would love that. Do I want a sequel? Yes, but also no, because the story ends so perfectly in my opinion. But would a story like this be successful in this day and age? I 100% think it would. Like I mentioned earlier, there isn't that many skyship media, be it movies, shows, etc. Off the top of my head, I can think of Treasure Planet, which is amazing, and the Skypiea arc from One Piece. Arguably the most important arc in the show. Is it likely to happen? No, it would be insane if it did, but if it did, I would love to see Wit Studio take this project on. Their work on Spy Family and Attack on Titan makes me think that they can tackle the comedy, action, and emotional moments that Arcadia has to offer. A dream to be sure, but hey, what else are dreams for?
Three.
Now, I'm a sucker for good sci-fi action. I'm also a sucker for anthropomorphic animal-like creatures. And before anyone starts, I'm not a furry. No disrespect or anything, just, not my style. I swear, I promise. No, you're in my head. Get out of my head. You're in my head! Nobody's in my head! And while I haven't played all of the games, I've always had a deep admiration of Star Fox. Further proof of that will be Wolf is one of my top 5 mains in Smash. Take that as you will. Some of the most potential-filled franchises are the ones that Nintendo unfortunately left behind, but with some minor adjustments to the lore here and there, I truly think the story of Star Fox can be told very well in an action-animated show. The group of mercenaries known as Star Fox defending the Lilat system against Andross, A whole lot of space dogfights reminiscent of the opening scene to Revenge of the Sith but with a Nintendo feel would be amazing. I also think that the show would work well either in standard animated style like the cutscenes in Zero, or a more Clone Wars approach with 3D CGI seen in Starlink's cutscenes. Beastars also comes to mind, but that design is very specific to that show given its themes and characters. I just don't see it working with airship action the same way. Give it multiple seasons so we can get to Star Fox Adventures and introduce Crystal, a big childhood crush of mine back in the day. Again, the same case as Arcadia. If we're unlikely to get another game, I would just love to see the story told in another medium. I also would love to see the banter between Peppy, Slippy, Falco, and Fox as they ward off evil monkeys. Sincerely, I think if done well, all audiences could get a kick out of something like this.
Two.
Hey, remember this?
Ooh, hey, how about this profile? Oh, wait, good show! Oh, no, how about like this? Excuse me.
How is Sony gonna edge me like that? I was 13 when this teaser first dropped, and I was more excited than you could imagine. All I had to do was wait 2 years, and I could see Sly on the big screen. I waited and waited. And nothing. At the time, I didn't really make the effort to research why I didn't see updates on projects I was waiting for. I just didn't really use social media like that, but I was just thinking it was pushed back. Animation takes a long time, especially for a video game adaptation. They really didn't do these often back then, so I decided to wait. The years passed and I eventually forgot about it until one day in 2020 I woke up and remembered that it was a thing at one point and realized, dog, this movie is never coming out. I didn't know until researching for the video that due to Ratchet & Clank bombing at the box office, production on Sly Cooper was put on hiatus and that's all she wrote. Which sucks, but can I complain? I mean, I never saw the Ratchet & Clank movie, so I can't say it was unfair or unwise of the studio to make that decision. It's just really unfortunate. I think that movie really could have been something, even if it wasn't successful, but let's put aside the movie and remember the charm of the games. The dope characters, hilarious dialogue, cheesy romance between Sly and Carmelita, probably my first tsundere-esque character I ever saw as a kid. I begun replaying these games a couple years ago and was reminded just why it's probably my favorite platformer franchise of all time, which is an insane claim, but dog, they're so good. And a big part in why I think that is the extremely lovable characters and stories, so I would love to see a show featuring them. You don't even have to do stories from the games, you could just run a new heist each season, bringing in characters from the games and creating brand new ones. Easy clap right then and there. It has potential to run a long way as the thieves are greedy, so they'll keep wanting to steal, and the heist can eventually turn into a situation where they end up saving people from villains who are stealing really dangerous tech, which kinda happens in the game. I mean, at the end of the day, Sly and gang just want to do right by the greater good when it really comes down to it. Man, I just miss Sly. I want the movie I was promised, I want a new game, and I want a TV show. Am I that greedy? Am I just that selfish? Kinda.
1.
So, I initially left this one off the list, as I felt it was the most obvious, but the more I thought about it, the more passionate I became with the idea. Especially because a huge chunk of this past year I dedicated to playing and beating every single game in the franchise. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts is one of my favorite video game franchises of all time. From the moment I played the first one at a very young age to being completely confused with the sequel a little later, I initially fell off the games as they started releasing on consoles I didn't have, but I always read up on the lore and watched countless theory videos on what would happen next. I got Kingdom Hearts 3 when it came out in 2018, but I'd never finished it. I got sick and fell off of gaming completely, but after playing and beating every game earlier this year, I remembered how encapsulated I was from this wonderful story. Is it convoluted? Yes. Is it a little ridiculous and covered with retcons? Yeah, sometimes. Do I still adore each character? Absolutely I do. From the KH originals to the Disney classics, even some of the Final Fantasy guys and gals who pop in to serve very little purpose overall. I can gush about the games and the love all day though. Let's talk about a hypothetical show. And speaking of, did you know that there was gonna be a show on the Disney Channel in the early 2000s? In 2003, there was an animatic pilot that ended up leaking onto the internet, and you can even find a decent version of it on YouTube. It's funny, cute, and a really interesting what could have been had it been greenlit. It's honestly sad to see that it never did, because it possibly could have turned a lot of casuals into fans, but knowing Disney at the time, they would have allowed for a singular season show with a ton of heart. Do you get it? Heart! Okay, moving on. Only to axe it despite its popularity and passion from its creators. See Kim Possible and American Dragon Jake Long for more. But nowadays, with Disney Plus and how far the franchise has come, I've outlined what I think is the perfect Kingdom Hearts universe, and I'm normally super over shows doing this, like the Mandoverse with Star Wars and the fatigue I felt with Marvel the last few years, but this story can't just be told in one show, as you'll come to see if you're unfamiliar. Also important to mention, my dream studio for this is Studio Mir, one of my favorite animation studios with countless success stories. They've got one of the best Visions episodes from Star Wars, they've done Young Justice, Korra, Boondocks, Adventures with Superman, Kippo, Voltron, so you know they've got great variety and can work well with well-known legacy characters while also doing great original anime style. So, Kingdom Hearts Season 1 will be the entirety of the first game, from beginning to end, cutting out what you need to here and there and setting up foreshadowing for the future and past reveals later. After this, we've got a two-part movie for Chain of Memories, the first part following Sora, Donald, and Goofy, as the second follows Riku and Mickey as they all travel through Castle Oblivion, learning about Organization 13 and Naminé. Then we got Season 2 of Kingdom Hearts, following the complete part of Kingdom Hearts 2, including a long prologue episode for Roxas and his buddies in Twilight Town, similar to how Oshi no Kyo pulled off their first episode of being a lot longer to set up the plot moving forward. Then another movie, this time the prequel to the second season, in 358 over 2 days, also to be known as one of the saddest ones. Good lord, I still haven't recovered. Following that will be a 3-part movie with Birth by Sleep. Each part follows Terra, Ventus, and Aquas stories just like the game. And honestly, it'd be nice if you could watch it in any order like the games, but that would be difficult to do considering the final battle should be viewed in full, as it's so extremely important as to not miss any of the very complicated things that happen. After this is Recoded. Since this will feel like the most filler-ish arc, I would use it as a mini-series that directly leads into another 2-part limited series or movie with Dream Drop Distance, again following Sora and Riku separately as they try to learn and utilize the power of waking. Then we move full into the big budget movie of Union Cross Dark Road and Key Back Cover. There is a ton of lore with the mobile games that set up a massive amount moving forward in the series. Arguably, the most important information to know in the future is in here, so if condensed, I feel like it can fit into a prequel movie, or maybe even 2 if you need the time. After this, we have another small limited series showing 0.2 Birth by Sleep, A Fragmentary Passage. Yes, casuals, I'm 100% serious, that's the name. But it's short, and before you know it, it's over. Just show us what Aqua's been going through as we set up for the 3rd season, which would be Kingdom Hearts 3 in its entirety, while also fitting in the DLC Remind and the importance of Melody of Memory, possibly in an epilogue if you have to, completely wrapping up the Xehanort saga in Kingdom Hearts. This would take years of effort, but effort well worth it, as the story is beautiful. The dynamics of friendship and what Sora is capable of would strike with a lot of people who are nervous to get into the franchise this late into the game. And like it or not, Kingdom Hearts is Disney, and Disney is Kingdom Hearts. The fact that there isn't any mention of Sora anywhere in Disneyland still surprises me, and you can get a lot of people as fans of the franchise who just aren't into games. I know a ton of people who are interested but just don't play video games, so why not? I know with Mickey Mouse steadily approaching the public domain, Disney might be nervous to use him in such a different project, as he and his friends are mainly used for younger audiences. Like, when did you notice we stopped getting stuff like a Goofy movie or House of Mouse? But I genuinely see only financial success if they decided to take this on. This would take years and years, so by the time they caught up to Kingdom Hearts 3, we'd finally have an idea on when Kingdom Hearts 4 is gonna come out. I mean, God, why do we still know nothing? All jokes aside, to see Roxas, Axel, and Xion on that tower, to see Sora and Riku racing on Destiny Islands, to see Kairi finally doing something worthwhile, to hear the amazing music which gives the deep moments that much more impact. The games have always received a ton of love thanks to Tetsuya Nomura and the hundreds of people who worked on the games. It would be an absolute gem of a show one day. Let your heart be your guiding key. Oh boy, I did not mean for this video to be as long as it is. I just hope you're all still here. I'm sorry, but I just love storytelling. Be it in games, shows, movies, whatever. But a lot of games I thought of couldn't end up making the list, so maybe I'll make another one down the road. Until then, what about you? Did I miss any games that you'd love to see on the small screen one day? Let me know down below, I would love to hear what you'd have in mind. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Until next time, remember, care responsibly.
So dance while I put you in a trance. Let's party.